For well over 20 years, Nintendo has made some of the best consoles around. The Super Nintendo brought with it some true classic games, and Nintendo's opening salvo into the 16-bit console wars. The Nintendo 64 became an instant favorite and major competitor against the PlayStation when it was released, bringing full 3D graphics at last. The GameCube was Nintendo's big foray into the realm of optical discs, dropping support for the cartridges that had served their consoles for so long. And lastly, but certainly not least, there was the Wii. The Wii is undoubtedly the biggest selling console of this generation, packing in a potent combination of motion controls and wireless Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. All these consoles left their mark on the video game industry as a whole, so let's begin an in-depth look at each one to see how they have progressed throughout the years. Welcome to the Nintendo Console Wars. The first segment of the Nintendo Console Wars is the look of the consoles. Here we have consoles spanning in age some 15 years, and as you can clearly see, much has changed. The Super Nintendo was a major step up from the console it replaced, bringing with it improved graphics and a much smaller form factor. Indeed, it took Nintendo 2 whole generations to get another console back down to the very small size of the Super Nintendo. The console is made entirely of gray plastic, which while looks fairly dated today, still was a major improvement from the original Nintendo. On the front you will find 2 ports for controllers, which somewhat oddly plug in opposite of each other. On the top it's quite simple, with a purple on-off switch as well as a reset button. Above this you will find the game slot, where it's quite simple to slide in a game cart. Both sides are free and clear of ports and vents. On the back, you will find a narrow vent and connections for both the power cable and AV out. The Super Nintendo was a very simple console that packed a serious punch for the time. Even though most models now are approaching 20 years old, they were built to last, and assuming it's not been treated badly, odds are most of them are still working. That alone is a testament to how solid the Super Nintendo is, and how they will still be played for many more years. Next is the Nintendo 64. Here, you can see the console underwent a radical redesign, growing in size and adding several features such as 4 controller ports as opposed to 2, and a choice of colors. Transparent orange being the best, obviously. It's a very oddly shaped console, filled with lots of long, rounded corners, but it's still distinctive even to this day. The Nintendo 64 was available in a wide range of colors, including black, orange, purple, blue, green, and several others. In addition, there were several different special edition versions, the most interesting being a Pokemon-themed version that entirely changed the look of the Nintendo 64, removing many of the busy lines in exchange for adding a giant Pikachu. Pretty good trade-off if you ask me. On the front, you will find 4 controller ports and a small light indicating when the console is on. The top has an on-off switch, reset button, along with a slot to insert the expansion pack, which increased the RAM and improved the graphics in some games. At the rear, you will find the AV out, as well as a very large indentation where the power supply is inserted. The Nintendo 64 was the most advanced console of its generation, capable of some impressive for the time 3D graphics. The majority of the consoles around today are more than 10 years old, but good examples aren't hard to find. It shouldn't be difficult to find a nice model for a reasonable amount, and so long as the numerous vents aren't clogged with grime and dust, then you should have a very solid console on your hands. Moving along, now we come to the Nintendo GameCube. The GameCube went in a very different direction than its predecessor, dropping many of its key features such as the cartridge format, moving instead to a mini DVD. Another major difference was the change to a unique form factor of a cube, hence the name, the GameCube, obviously. The GameCube was available in a range of colors, although most of them were less crazy than on the Nintendo 64. The front of the console is taken up by 4 controller ports, as well as 2 slots for memory cards. Looking at the top, you will see buttons for power, reset, along with a button to open the disc bay. Both sides have large vents for cooling, with the fan residing on the left side. The back is largely taken up by a handle, which actually allows you to pick up the console and make it somewhat portable. There's also a power connector along with both digital and analog video out. The GameCube tried several new things, but was held back by its lack of DVD support, something both the original Xbox and PlayStation 2 had. Just one look at store shelves will tell you who won this generation's console war, as the GameCube has been out of production since 2007, and Sony still gets millions of PlayStation 2s out a year. Used examples are both cheap and plentiful, with the Wii being able to replace it entirely, even down to controller ports and memory card slots. GameCubes are everywhere. They are quite reliable, and considering that even your oldest ones that you can find are only about 7 years old, the GameCube is a pretty safe bet. Lastly, we have the Wii. The Wii has gotten bagged on for being little more than a GameCube with motion controls and Wi-Fi, but it hasn't sold nearly 3 times as many consoles as its predecessor for nothing. It features a lot of unique features, such as a form factor similar to the PS2 Slim, the motion controls, and full emulation support for all kinds of older games, from the Nintendo 64 to the original Nintendo. Not bad, considering that it can play every game from each of the other consoles in this video, among many more. Now, over 3 years into its life, the Wii is actually somewhat limited in options. It comes in a few colors though. You can get it in white, as well as white, and oh yeah, it comes in white too. Hopefully this gets remedied soon enough, with some of the cool colors that it was shown in before it was released. The front is largely taken up by its slot-loading disk drive, which accepts both GameCubes and Wii games, but sadly nothing else. It has power, reset, and eject buttons, as well as the hidden panel, which hides a controller sync button and space to insert an SD card. Both sides are completely clear, while the top has spaces to insert up to 4 GameCube controllers, as well as 2 GameCube memory cards. The back has 2 USB ports, a small fan, along with connections to the sensor bar, video out, and power. The Wii, while lacking graphics anywhere comparable to either the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, has still managed to handily outsell both its competitors. It has a lot of shortcomings, but also a lot of unique strengths. Currently, the Wii costs $200, and used models have dropped considerably in price in the last year or so, thanks in major part to the fact that people no longer fight over them when the stores finally get a couple. So there you have it, the first installment of the Nintendo Console Wars. Be sure to stay tuned for future episodes, where we'll cover games, controllers, features, and much more. Do you have any of these consoles? Which is your favorite Nintendo console of all time? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching.